Hello, everybody. Let me get this going. A little bit. I can zoom you in a little bit, actually. See that? There you go. I'm going to be doing some sanding today. So that's really exciting. No, sanding is my least favorite part of what I do. It's so much work, and my arms hurt for days. But we're gonna try our best. So I have a lot of sanding to do to catch you up from the live stream. The past few live streams I've been cutting live. So cutting these designs live. I've been using my jewelry saw here, which most of you are familiar with. But all of the cutting is done. I am now working on sanding the pieces. The other thing that I did, not live, but like on camera, not on camera either. I can't really show, but because I did cut these pieces, so like the shape of the bookmarks myself. Hold on, I'm sorry. I'm getting a lot of this sides, the two sides had a rough edge that I had to get rid of. And you know, even though I have 4 years, 5 years of experience doing this, it doesn't mean that I'm always perfect. So some of my lines tend up to come up a little bit curvy, things like that. So I ended up filing them down to make sure that they were straight. So all of them are pretty straight now. I also took this file to round the edges because once again, these are bookmarks. So you don't want the edges to be scratching out at the paper from the books or anything. So they have been rounded and they look nice now. And then I also went in with this tiny file on areas within the design here to fix any lines that needed to be straightened or if they weren't perfect. Now, usually what I do and what we're going to do today is going to be, I'm going to be sanding away all of the grit that the piece has from the cutting. So when I'm cutting, there's a lot of friction, there's a lot of heat. And the upper side, this is the side that had the sticker paper on. This side looks fairly clean. There's actually nothing to be sanded. I can pass my finger through here. It feels just fine. But on this side, there is a lot of grit. You can't really see it, but I can feel it. So a way of getting rid of that is sanding. And usually when I do my first pass of sanding, which is usually the highest grit, I also go back and fix any imperfections within the design. However, based on how much time I have and things like that, like I don't mind if these are imperfect, right? Like I'm not a perfect person and I'm cutting these by hand, and I usually like that to come through the final result. So I don't think I'm going to go back and do a lot of the tiny, tiny cleanup unless I feel like I really messed up and I really need to fix something. But I did take my clamp off. If I do end up going back and fixing, I'm probably gonna do it off camera or off live feed, just because I don't know, like it's gonna be harder to reset the camera for that. Hello, hello, Kafifa. So I'm an artist and I do metal cutting. That's one of the things that I do. And I usually make like a lot of jewelry on this channel and show the process of that. But lately I've been making these pieces, which are bookmarks. I've done some live streams showing the process of how the cutting goes. But today we're gonna do the next step, which is sanding. Oh, hi from hi. Yeah, your name is very unique. I like it. But that's essentially what I'm doing today. This is my first time doing this live. I don't know if it's going to be very loud. I'm using well, this is not too gritty, but somewhat gritty sandpaper. And you won't be able to see anything, but we can chat through this while, people have questions and things like that. I'm just cleaning up my space right now because I started yesterday. And I was just explaining what I did off camera. So I have 17 pieces. Like I said, I have 3 done. Oh, these are the 3 that are already sanded with the grit paper. And you can tell the difference if I put these side to side. You can see how these are shinier than this one. This one's very matte and very orange, and these are very pink. That's because these have been sanded. Now they're not fully finished. They are in the first step of sanding, or the second step technically. Thank you. The final result, I mean, this is one that I've been using. This is the bookmarker that I've been using, but you can tell how it's way more shiny. It's been used, so it's orange. It has my fingerprints on it, but I can feel like it's extremely smooth. I can really glide it off of here. And these are not smooth. Like I'm struggling. They make noise too because they're not shiny. This one makes no noise. It's gliding really well. So we're on the second step of sanding, which is getting rid of any imperfections, any grit, any imperfections that the metal itself has. This metal does have a lot of I don't think it was made super well. It has a lot of holes in it, which is fine. Like I don't mind it. But we are sanding a lot of it away because I don't want it to show up in the final product. But this is kind of what I'm going for in the next few days of sanding. But again, we're only on day 1. We're not day 1. We're in step 2, day 3 of sanding. May I know where you're from? Yeah, I live in the United States. I really like your work. It was awesome. I'm really impressed. Thank you. Yeah, I have a lot of videos on what I do, so you can go back and check those. A lot of the live streams that I've done are like real time, like it's a lot of process, so you really get to see like how long it takes me. Videos that I post are just a glimpse of the process or are time lapse, so everything is moved up way faster, and you don't really get to see how long a piece takes. But you know, those videos are always available for you to watch if you would like. But yeah, I mean, I'm from the US, and if you're looking for any to purchase anything, I currently don't ship outside of the United States just because it can be very expensive. Thank you. I hope you enjoy and stick around with us. So I'm gonna start. Hopefully this isn't too loud. I'm hoping that it isn't. I'm gonna put gloves on. So if anything happens, everything is going to get super dirty with these gloves. They have years, not years, probably a year of dust. All right. So I put gloves on just because of the way that I hold the paper. And this can get really messy. So I put gloves on both hands just to protect my fingers a little bit. Otherwise, my fingers will get very dark. You know, the color of the paper or even the color of this. And then because this is copper, that can eventually oxidize on your fingers. So for these step 2 of the sanding process, I'm going in with all of these with 220 grit sandpaper. And I'm going to do it this way just because it's cleaner. Usually, if I decide that I'm not going to be checking all of these for imperfections and things like that, I would have all of my papers and alternate, and then I would show that process of like how it gets shiny. I might do that later in a different live stream of maybe 2 pieces that I can do that with. But for right now, I'm just going to stick with this one grit paper because I do tend to save my sanding. Not my sanding. I do tend to save. I'm trying to look. Sorry. I do tend to save the dust and I collect it because I usually do copper on copper painting using copper dust. And it's the old dust that I get from the sanding process. And a lot of the times I can't use dust that is coarse. So this is very coarse paper and it doesn't give me any fine dust. And a lot of the times because this is coarse, this will eat through the paper. And so the dust is not just going to be copper, but also paper. So I usually collect the dust once I've reached like the 600 grit. So we're going to start with the 400. And hopefully you can see a little bit. This one I kind of already did yesterday. I don't know if this is going to be loud. It shouldn't be too loud. And sorry, this triggers my bird a little bit. But she'll get used to it. And I'm trying to go in a very light pressure. Just because otherwise I get really tired really fast. But yeah, the sanding process, like I said, is my least favorite. Just because, I don't think I mentioned this. Well, my arms do get really tired, but after doing this for an entire day and doing different grits, you tend to forget like that your hands are basically doing the same movement over and over again. And then because you get tired, you start pressing harder, especially if there's areas that you know you're not sanding really well. And all of that pressure affects your muscles. And so by the end of the day, my muscles are very sore, especially the left one. Even though the left one is not doing anything by grabbing this, I tend to grab way too hard because when the piece starts moving by itself, it bothers me. So I try to put too much pressure on it so it doesn't move. But I don't know if you can see anything. But I try to sand until I see the orange of the copper go away. And if that means concentrating on that spot, that's fine. And I'm doing it this way. I should probably explain several things that I'm doing. Usually, well, all of my pieces are really small. All of my pieces of sandpaper. So you could probably be like, why aren't you sanding it on the paper? Which I could. But on the first few steps, I really can't move it. Like, I have no grip. Thank you. She was just mentioning on the finish of the piece. Yeah, this is not the full finish. This is just one of the finishes. We're gonna get very shiny, but for right now, this is the first step. So I sand it this way, and also my fingers have a lot of fat. They're not perfectly straight. So another thing that I create when I'm sanding this way is a slight dome on the piece. So it doesn't have a straight edge, it's kind of domey. And once I start sanding much finer, then that dome becomes extremely shiny and it's a really nice finish. So those are some of the reasons why I sand this way. And it might, in some people's defense, it might be easier to sand longwise, you know, following the horizon of the piece. But when it comes to pieces, or from at least what I learned from hand sanding, is that when I sand vertically on the piece, so like I know this piece is meant to be seen this way as I am pointing at the camera. If I sand it this way and I go and continue to sand it that way, all of those lines that the sandpaper makes, like I can't get rid of all of them without spending like maybe 2 to 3 days on this paper, on this piece, and sanding away at that. And like that would be great if somebody is commissioning me to do that, but they're not. So I try and get the closest to that finish as I can. And because I do try to get the closest, you do see all of those imperfections and all of those lines made by my hands. And they are more visible if I do them vertically. However, if I do them horizontally, it's kind of hidden, especially in this piece, because it is so much thinner on the sides. All of those imperfections kind of hide. So that's another reason why I'm sanding it this way. It is harder, but based on my abilities and the fact that I'm doing this by hand, it just helps so much more and provides the type of finish that I like. So, like I said, I don't think it's really showing up on camera too much, but I am sanding until I see all of that orange go away. Because that indicates to me that I've sanded enough to the point where I'm basically got to everything that has already oxidized through me just cutting the piece and all of that. And as I said, as it is, this copper that I got, it was given to me. It wasn't perfect. It had a lot of imperfections in the making, a lot of holes. So I'm keeping in mind that I also want to get rid of most of those. And knowing that I have to get rid of that orangey, you can kind of see here how this is darker. Getting rid of that is my goal in terms of giving this first pass of sanding. I might be taking a few breaks in between every other piece just because this is a lot. One thing that I do is just slam it on the side because it gets rid of a lot of dust. And then I go in and create that divot myself by holding the piece and going at like a, I don't know what this angle would be, a 40, maybe 20-degree angle, and sanding that edge. And you can kind of see how that edge is shiny just by me doing that. But it just creates more smoothness. Make sure I get rid of all the sharp edges so it doesn't affect anything that it touches. And I would highly recommend using a mask. I mean, I'm saying all of this as if it's a tutorial. I always talk as if I'm doing a tutorial, but I'm not. But I highly recommend using a mask when doing this stuff. And there we are, one piece done with the second step. I'm gonna put it over here where I have all of my other pieces. Okay, tomorrow I will watch your videos. I am not able to watch now because I'm in India. It's a late night. My kids are waiting for sleeping. Good night. Good night. Kavida. I don't know if I pronounced that right, but I tried my best. Thank you for joining, and I hope you have a good night. I'm getting another piece of paper, just in case. I think that's 200 grit. And we're going to move on to the next piece here. And we're just going to continue, and this is basically what I'm doing this entire live stream, which is a lot of the time is what I wonder, like, for me specifically, it gets really boring to post the same things over and over. And when I do post, I try to post things that are a little bit different. But it's all hard and complicated. I hope you can tell the difference there. There is a lot that goes into this, and the more I do this, the lazier I try to be with not lazier, but the more I'm just like, okay, this is good enough to the eye. Like, I don't try to go crazy because if I'm trying to be a perfectionist on something, then that just racks up the price on the item. And I'm trying not to make these so expensive that they can't be purchased. But yeah, I try my best with what I have and what I can. This is so detailed. One of my favorite parts of sanding specifically is like if I am able to stay still and I lift up the piece, you're able to see the piece underneath because of the sanding. I also try to drop these very lightly on the paper because there is so much dust on it that if I drop them very hard, they kind of like, not exactly splash, but all of the dust goes everywhere. So now I know I already sanded these parts, but I'm going back because from my perspective, there's areas that are still orange. And if I see those areas and I know that I can't get them, I know that I won't be able to get them moving forward. And that means that in the final result, you're going to see areas that are extremely shiny. And then some areas are going to be very rustic because I wasn't able to reach them. So I'm going back this way to see if I'm able to sand it in this way and get rid of all those lines that I'm seeing. And it did. It got rid of all of those lines, which is really nice. And that means that as I continue to sand it with finer grits, then I should be hitting every single area and everything is going to look like I want it to. All right. Again, I'm not trying to slam this into the workspace. Also, I've noticed that I put my camera in the wrong way. You can see the handle. It's fine, it's whatever. We're going in, my right arm is starting to hurt. And the worst part about this is that I can't do this while I have my fan going. So I have to suffer even if it's really hot and I'm doing this because if I have my ceiling fan or any other type of like fan going, all of this is gonna fly. And that's really bad, especially when I have animals sometimes in this room. So when I'm usually done with this, especially at night, it's starting to be summertime. It's gonna start getting really hot. So in terms of the pricing for these, I usually charge how long it takes me to work on these per hour. And I charge like 25 per hour for these pieces because it's fine. So based on how long it's taken me for certain things, I don't think there'll be more than 100. I don't even think there'll be more than 80. So that's reasonable for these types of, well, bookmarks are really going to last you forever. And I think one of the like, I guess, points that people are not gonna love or that are gonna hesitate on is the fact that they're made out of copper. But copper is such a cool material, and as I said, like while I was showing the bookmark that I've been using, your fingerprints show up on it the more you use them. They start oxidizing, and basically they change based on you, based on the oils in your fingers, based on maybe grease on your fingers, based on the environment. So you're a person that reads like while they're out, all of that is going to affect your bookmark and the way that it changes. So I'm more than anything see this bookmark as a challenge for book readers, because you'll know that the more fingerprints or the more oxidized the piece is, the more it has been used by that reader. Right now I'm just checking it a little bit. Like I said, this metal specifically that I was given, I noticed that it has a lot of tiny holes. And I'm just making sure that they're not, that, I mean, I'm not gonna get rid of those, not the holes, but like the marks completely. But I at least want it to be soft enough that it's not noticeable. So I gotta focus more on the edge here. To get rid of what I think are like bubbles that I'm just gonna rotate it. And I'm trying to do all the roughness on this session because as I get, or as I start using finer paper, I can't do that anymore. Anything that you do kind of starts leaving a mark on the copper. So I'm trying my best just to do what I can. And now this side had a lot more imperfections, so I have to go in with a heavier hand. And I'm gonna put this now on my thumb. Because your thumb is usually really strong as it is. So it's gonna be able to come in here and really take away material. What's up? Sorry, my bird is really loud. It looks much better. There we are. Now we're gonna do the edge. Actually, I think I'm gonna do the edge with a new piece of sandpaper because that sandpaper has so much sand, like dust on it, that when I do this, dust flies everywhere. And that's done. And this one has a notch on the top. The one that we just did didn't. But I will go in here and sand this notch a little bit. This is a part where I couldn't fully get rid of the lines of the saw. So I do have to do this more manually of cleaning up. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Again, I don't need anything to be perfect. I just want it to be clean enough. So I can literally just touch it and see that I haven't sanded this side or the edge of this side. So that's what I'm gonna do now. And from my perspective, that edge is getting really shiny. So that's how I know that I've sanded it well enough. There you go. It's been sanded, and we move on to the next one. I'm gonna take off my glove here for a sec and drink some water. I hope you're all doing well. Uh, Taking a small break because it can get tiring. Especially with my left hand. Gotta fix this at the bottom because you can see how this is green from all the sanding that I've done. But that sometimes affects that. It's pretty hot today. That's my only real concern of doing this, but it's not too worrying. Gonna put some music here on my headphones. Hopefully I'm not too distracted. Okay, there you go. It helps. And I don't know if the sanding is too loud. If it does, I can't really do much about that. But it's a good thing to keep in mind. So I know if it's something that is streamable or not. Yeah, you can, I don't know if you can see how green that is. I can't really see from my camera. There you go. Yep, you can see a little bit. It's slightly green from all the sanding that we've done, and the glove itself on the front is brown. And it's really not gonna turn green. However, if I am sanding for a really long day, all of the dust penetrates underneath, then there's moisture, and then my hands do end up turning green. But that's okay. It washes off. I have no allergy to metals or anything. So I'll be fine. All right. Trying to check a few stuff here. real quick before putting my glove back on. All right. So the really nice thing about this is that I've learned a lot. I did a art residency last year in West Virginia at the Stifel Fine Arts Center, and I knew that sticker paper was a thing that you could place on copper and or on metal in general, and then take it off. Now, I know that sounds kind of like crazy because a lot of the times you go to stores and many things have sticker paper on them, but I specifically use vinyl sticker paper, so it has a vinyl backing, which means that it's really easy to pull off. However, sometimes the adhesive itself does stay on the copper, which is what these areas that are kind of not large, that are kind of dark are, is where some of that adhesive stayed. However, it's nothing compared to what I had to deal with previously with using glue stick paper and taking it off. There would be times where the paper would just not come off, period. And sanding away paper is honestly a nightmare. So I also love that. Like I was, like as you do things, you learn things. And I was so happy to learn something like that because it makes the sanding process now a lot more easy. Sorry, I literally did one stroke and my left arm started hurting. Okay. I'm trying not to grip it so hard so I'm not literally exhausting my muscles. And I'm trying to hold it very lightly and sand very lightly, at least to not exhaust my muscles. And if anybody has like a better way of doing this or any advice, I will take it because it's honestly pretty hard to do this. I'm honestly really hoping that these pieces do well. It's been a struggle. The copper jewelry didn't do well, and I can understand that a lot. It's something that you have to wear. There is a risk of it oxidizing, and a lot of people don't love that. But with these pieces, I'm more going for you want to embrace that change that copper has. And they will be cleaned super well, so they shouldn't really be creating any staining on your books or anything. They won't have any finish on top either. Because if I don't do a ever clear or ever bright finish on them, I'm doing a wax coating on them. So I use Renaxon wax sometimes to coat. But that can also affect paper and things like that. So I think I'm just gonna clean these as much as I can. It shouldn't really be that hard, but that is the only thing I can offer. I'm really hoping that, I'm really going to be testing my selling skills with these pieces because I'm really going to try and sell the property of copper that separates it from other metals. And then also as of current times, talking about what copper is, what copper does, the beauty of it is the one thing saving me and that I can have extensive, long conversations about. It's also the other thing that I'm extremely passionate about. So like, it's not just about the finish or the final product. It's more about like the tools and the methods that I use to get here. And I don't know, there's several different topics that you can pull off from why I picked copper, why I think it's such an amazing material. There is like a, I guess you could say, lore in why copper was my metal of choice. But what I do here can be done with any metal. But copper is very inexpensive. And so if people want me to make things with a different type of metal, that be silver, that be gold, I can definitely do that. But people gotta keep in mind that those materials cost more as well. So the only thing that I'm struggling with this bookmark is that there is this little curve part here, and based on friction it is going to either bend one side more or the other. One thing that I decided is that I might be making more bookmarks, and I'm going to do a poll here and in other social medias to see what people like the most and which ones I should do a second batch of. This flower specifically was very popular. People loved it. And I like it as well. However, it is the most annoying to make. So I might not make it. If I do a pool, it's not going to be included. Just because like it's really not that enjoyable to cut. I don't know. It's very interesting. I've had videos where I talk about pieces being really enjoyable to cut and pieces not being enjoyable to cut, and it's really unpredictable to like say what pieces will be enjoyable and what isn't. Okay, this finger is getting tired, so I'm gonna give it a break and work on my thumb. My thumb makes more noise because the paper's closer to the same paper is closer to the paper. And together they just make more noise. Okay, gotta remember to have a light grip. This is really hard because I know that you can't really see what I'm doing. Okay. I'm actually going to move some stuff up here. So I can place my my cardboard with the other pieces. Let's see if I can make space. I have so much stuff up here. Gonna put this back. I don't really need any of these files currently. Sorry, putting it in a drawer under here. And if anybody, these diamond files are so nice and amazing. I love using them when I teach metal cutting for classes, because sometimes people are too scared of really getting close to the design because they're scared that they're gonna saw through it. But the diamond files helps the students gain a little bit more confidence, because I always tell them, like, it's better if you get close to your line or to your design, but you don't have to. You can always use the diamond files and sand away a little bit of the design that you need for it to be perfect or how you want it. And it just makes everybody feel more comfortable and confident when that is an available possibility. The other thing that I've been debating, I'm trying to make space here, is if I should make more of these pieces for the cell. There's only 2 of these that I have left, and I think I made 3 koi fish, 1 flower, 2 scorpions. They all sold. The only ones I haven't sold is this one and its partner. So I'm thinking, should I make more of those? Would they do well at that sale? I do have a piece that I have to pick up from a museum that I usually take to vendor shows, or artisan shows. So I'm thinking I might be taking that one. So might as well make more. And I'm more inspired with these new designs that I've made for the bookmarks, that I'm like, maybe I could make butterflies and horses and things like that. I don't know. My brain has been like really going out there with all of this, and the possibilities. Sorry. Just making a bit of space here to put my cardboard. And I do have a big sheet of copper. But this copper that I used for this is way thicker. You can see the difference. I mean, it's not way thicker, but it's definitely thicker. This is smaller by 2 points. But that's something that I'm thinking about. I'm moving this in a way where it's not too right. There you go. I'm really, honestly, very proud of most of these designs. They came out amazing. I think another thing that I'm gonna do is rotate you guys, because the handle of the camera is really bothering me. There you go. Sorry about that. Okay. That's what we're working with. It doesn't look the best, this area. It's honestly, this is not the prettiest like thing to see. Also, this is all of the sticker paper I got from the removal. And I think that's a piece of art in itself. Some of it is already turning green, which is crazy. Um, but I think it's really fascinating. I really like how it all looks. I'm gonna keep it because I think it's cool, and I'm just gonna make giant piles of this. All right, we're back. Actually, this looks not great. I'm gonna put it over there. I'm gonna clean this a little bit. I don't know if you can see how much paper is actually here. It's so fluffy that I'm just like, that's all. That's not all paper. That's a lot of paper that I sanded. I'm trying to find a different position where my left arm is not gonna suffer through this process. Trying to lift my elbow up a little bit. Doing a 90 degrees is fine though, as long as I don't create too much tension on my muscles. But it's a hard thing to do. Am I still going? It seems like my stream wanted to disconnect for a second. I also don't know if I should be worried that I've been here for almost an hour and I only got 3 pieces done. But to my defense, I've been speaking. And once again, picking it up and I'm just checking it to see if I got rid of a lot of the bubbles. It looks like I did. It's a little bit harder to see. So, oh, darn it. You see that? I forgot to shake it over here. I make a meme out of the fact that I slam my work. I think a lot of people might take offense at that, but I did it once I was making 2 necklaces that were mushroom. The mushroom from, from Mario. And I got a lot of messages from my friends who had seen it, being like, wow, I love that you're just slamming the commission that you got. And I'm like, it's a technique reason. It's not because I don't like it. But you can see why I do it. It's because it leaves dust. And this is a way of getting rid of that without like brushing it or anything. Sorry. I'm grabbing it again because I didn't do the edge. I just remembered. Grabbing another piece of sandpaper. And again, I'm just doing this to get rid of the sharp edge that the metal has. Because these are bookmarks and I don't want any sharp edges to cut onto the paper of the book. And there you go. Now we go on to the next one. I'm gonna clear this out real quick because there's a lot of sand on it. And it's not gonna be fully clean, as you can see. This is a bit of just fine dust on there. So we're gonna go here and do this next one. What's up? The other thing is that this sandpaper is losing the grit that it had. It's not, even though it's a 220 grit sandpaper, it's really not that fine or that coarse, because I didn't realize that the store had two different types of sandpaper. This 220 is more used for homes. So more for like, what is it called? When you're sanding down plaster. Is that what it's called? Or the type of plaster that is used when there is construction happening. Oh, yeah, I was saying this isn't, so this is for that. So it's 220 coarse, but it's not extremely coarse. It's was labeled coarse fine. And that kind of confused me, but it was in really big sheets, which I needed at the time. And I had already cut it up into tiny pieces when I realized that it's not the coarseness that I needed. But it works for now. However, that means that I do have to be interchanging between sandpaper because I feel like I use it so quickly, especially with like metal. The coarseness of the sandpaper is going to be deteriorating the more you use. But that usually doesn't happen to me. I can use this for a bunch of copper, especially this brand. This is 3M. You can't really see it. Not even there. Okay. This is 3M, the brand, and it's the best sandpaper out there. Any other sandpaper that I've tried is not as good as this one. It lasts for a really long time, and like I said, I feel like this is coarse, like it's still doing its job, but it has lost some of its coarseness. But it's nothing to do with the paper. It has to do with the type of paper that I purchased, because they have different types. But this is what I mean, that you can like see that if I stay still, you can see the sandpaper kind of like leave a mark. Not the sandpaper, but the dust. Leave a mark on what I'm doing. I'm gonna see if I can do that same with the butterfly. But because this is more detailed, it's gonna be a little bit harder, I think. I'm gonna go in with my thumb. I try to interchange fingers just so I don't get super tired. And then also after this, I have to do a pass all around again to make sure that I get the edges, because anytime that I check these, that's where a lot of the imperfections from the copper itself are showing. All right, we're gonna lift it up and see if the butterfly, I mean, it's somewhat there. Is it noticeable enough though? No, it's not gonna stay there. Literally, it's just dust. But it's always cool to see. I wish that it did stay there. It would create such interesting artwork. But it doesn't. Sadness. All right, now this side, like I said, I think I will be getting another piece of sandpaper. So I'm just gonna move on to this one, which is what I was using for the edges. And then just get a new one for the edges. And that's how I usually rotate the sandpaper. And again, it's not the sandpaper's fault. Sorry, I purchased the wrong one at the store. Usually I just purchase the regular one, and just specifically for homes, which even though it's labeled as coarse, it's still finer than sandpaper, than the regular sandpaper. But I used to work for an interior design company where I used to paint with chalk paint on kitchens and furniture. And my boss there used to buy the brand, the Alligator brand. And sometimes the sandpaper by, what is that red brand that is like everywhere at Lowe's? that I think is the Lowe's brand. But I used to purchase that she used to purchase that sandpaper, and it it was awful because we would have to sand the wood before painting it, just so there was grit on the wood, especially if the wood had a finish. So sometimes we'd have to get rid of the finish and and paint on top of that. But so what that created, well, because some of them were kitchens, kitchens tend to get really greasy, specifically the cabinets on top, like right on top of the stove, get really sticky. On top of the refrigerator, those also get really sticky. So we would have to sand those extra, and using the Alligator brand or any other brand, just you could only like maybe make 1 or 2 swipes and the sandpaper would be over with. But then she got this sandpaper, or I told her, please get 3M sandpaper. It's so much better. And I told her, like, I know it's gonna like cost more, but it's gonna last us longer. And she did. And I was so happy that she did that because it's just like such a good brand. 3M, sponsor me. I have another, like, that's literally the only sandpaper I get. It's just good, and you can find all types of grit of it at Lowe's. I don't really go to Home Depot that much, so I don't know if Home Depot has 3M. It should. But do grab your sandpaper not from the painting aisle of Lowe's. Grab it somewhere else. So after this one, I'm gonna take a small break. Because my left arm again is starting to get tired. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, if I'm doing this, but it's helping my arm right now extend my fingers. It's part of like exercises. So, when my hand used to cramp a lot, when I used to work at that interior design company, because of sanding days or because of painting days, you're either closing your hand because of the brush all day, or you're extending your hand out a lot because of sanding days. I learned that doing these works a lot on making sure that your entire hand and arm gets blood flow. So I'm just checking. This looks pretty good. Besides right here, there's some type of thing going on, but I'm gonna clean out this paper because I think some thick dust might have fallen on here. And when there is sometimes very sharp dust on there, it tends to create texture on the copper on the other side. And I can kind of see that on this side. But there you go. It was just superficial, so it's very easy to get rid of that, but you want to get rid of it at this stage. Yeah, I always talk as if I'm like giving a tutorial or teaching, but I'm really not expecting anybody to do anything of what I'm saying. I forgot that I'm using the other piece of paper. Sorry, I went a little bit quiet there. I forgot to do this on the other ones. It's not that important, but I will be just going over this part here that I rounded as well. Just lightly, I don't have to be super harsh with it. But there we are. Another one done. Hold on. Okay, I'm just making sure that I got rid of all the dust before dropping it over here. So I'm gonna take a quick break. I need to get more water. And I will be right back. I don't have any music or anything to play. So I'm leaving this here for the time being while I come back. Or while I take my break and go get some water. All right, hello. I'm back. I grabbed some water. I also had to refill my water. What is it called? The water filter thing. I did get a little bit hungry after seeing these chips, so I grabbed some. But I don't really like to ASMR eat. The the microphone is so close to my face that I feel like you can just hear everything. But it is almost 4. It is almost my time to eat. So all right. I'm looking at all of this. I think based on the time, I might be able to get 1 or 2 more in. We'll see. There's still a lot to more. I might do this off camera. I might do these after I'm finished eating. And then maybe tomorrow I'll finish them. I'm still debating what I'm gonna do. I have other projects going on at the same time as this, and I'm trying to decide what is a priority as of this moment. We'll see. I'm working on a huge commission. Well, huge-ish. I think it's gonna be very easy to do. But unsure on how long. It's due in May. In the middle of May, so I have time. Sorry, I hate chips, but so good. Got to go back into position. Yeah, I think on a different day I might hopefully I have all of these sanded and stuff, and then we can get into the fine sanding. I can pick like 2 or 3 that I can fine sand live, because that is really interesting to watch. But as of right now, I do like only having like 1 grid of sandpaper out here, because doing multiple grids is a little bit harder. It's just a lot to keep track on. But we're right. Oh, I forgot that I was gonna. I've been playing music in my headphones. You really can't hear it yourselves, but I would also get super copyrighted if I did do that. Okay, hold on. I guess. Okay. Let's get back into it. Because I have 20 minutes into let's see if I can actually sand this in 10. Actually, sanding in 10 sounds wild. That's a really long time. But sometimes the sanding takes as long or even longer than the cutting itself. So that's wild, and that's something to keep in mind. This is my least favorite part because there's just so much to it. From we got this. Why did it say that I'm live? I thought it was live. Okay, weird. Okay, we'll continue. I think I'm gonna grab the piece like this right now. Hopefully it doesn't cover anything. But I need like a better way of doing this. Okay, nope. I didn't love that. My hand is in the way. Actually, let me try and sand with my left hand. No, I'm like, how do I grab this with my right hand? It shouldn't really be that hard to like sand with my other hand because it's just sanding. It's the same movement. Put it deeper. Maybe if I stand up. I mean, that helps a little bit, actually. There's pros and cons, right? The one thing I don't love about metal cutting, at least in the way in which I do it, is that my chair is way too high, but it's also very uncomfortable. So I have a cushion on it that helps for when I'm like usually sitting on it, and the cushion helps so much. However, I can't use it when I'm cutting because it adds height to me, which means that like I feel way too high up to see what I'm doing or what I'm cutting. And then the con from sanding is that I can sit. Actually, I prefer sitting. And I'm comfortable sitting, but now my arm is like, but I think mainly it's because I'm streaming and the camera is in the way of where I would be resting my arm to help. that's okay. How am I shaking the camera? Am I shaking my entire room? I don't know if you can see that, it's kind of shaking. All right. That looks okay. I don't sound very enthusiastic as I say that. I'm just struggling with this area right here in the middle, which is something that I found based on the ones that I've already sanded. It's designs that have a really long cut in the middle are tempted to point inwards. So when sanding, it's a little bit harder to sand those areas because they're pointing in. And for some reason, it points in on both sides sometimes. We'll see. No, it's fine. I can already tell. But if one side is pointed in, it means that from the other side it's going to sand well, but then the other side is going to be the one that I'm going to struggle with. So I can see already that I will be struggling to sand this side of it. And I kind of have to remember like everything that I'm doing. It's kind of crazy. But that's why I usually try to sand pieces like all in one go. Like I try to sand through the different grits all in one go, because when I'm doing this specific process of sanding it like this, and I'm noticing where the weak areas are or where it needs to be a little bit more sanded, this is when I see it. But now I have to remember it for like a different day when I come back, because I'm getting rid of all of these orange lines. Okay, I'm gonna flip it. Not flip it. But so basically I'm getting rid of all of these lines. So just checking here. I forgot what I was saying. Okay. I think this is my last one. And then we're done. I'm sorry. I felt like I took that long break for no reason. But I'm running out of things to say in terms of this specific process. And it's not pretty, it's not something that you can specifically see. I am visualizing right here. You can see the difference between these and these. But what I'm doing specifically is not extremely visible. But maybe next time for the brighter sanding, I'll get you guys a bit closer so you can see what I'm doing. All right, I'm just quickly gonna check it because I've sanded both sides now. It's looking pretty good. I can see that this side still has some bumps, so I'm just gonna use my thumb and go in pretty hard. And you can definitely see how much of the paper I'm sanding alone. All right, that should be good enough. We go for good enough on this channel, and now we're gonna sand the edges. And this is the reason why I wear gloves mainly on the left hand, even though it's not doing a lot, is because it is protecting this face of the copper from scratching it while I'm sanding it like this. And then we do the other side. And I'm not sanding for too long. Again, this grit is really coarse. So it easily takes away material. And with my gloves, I can feel if I've sanded it enough or not. Which may sound wrong, very in what's the word? Intercountive. I accidentally hit the side. I have to get rid of those sanding marks. It may seem like I wouldn't be able to feel the texture with my gloves on, but again, you get used to. I can feel that this is not sanded, and then my glove, like you can still feel some texture, even if you have gloves on. But maybe it's also something that you gotta train your senses on, or at least my finger senses, and kind of feeling the vibrations that the glove is feeling. And again, I don't go just by what I feel. I can also see that my sanding created this very sharp line, very shiny sharp line right here. And that's what I'm looking for. And now we sand the edges, or this notch up here. And I'm gonna do it from both sides. So I am rotating it again, because you're kind of going into this in a like at a certain angle. You're not gonna get everything from one side. And then I've mentioned, but I do rather get everything from one certain angle. And then so that was kind of long. We're essentially these rounded edges, just making sure that they are, there's no point there, and that The marks from the other file are not there either. But this is what this piece looks like. Looks pretty good. And then we tap it a little. And there we are. Added on to the rest of the family. So I'm gonna not get rid of this, but put this on the side. And before I end the stream, we're gonna go over some of this real quick. So this is what we got done today. Well, actually just these 5. These 3 I did yesterday. And at least from where I'm looking, these 3 are already oxidizing. I did them yesterday, so I can see that they're a little bit darker than these. These are pretty bright because I did them today. But again, it's just part of the process. I'm gonna continue to sand these off stream. And then maybe this week or at the beginning of next week, I'll be able to live stream me doing the sanding, which results into a shiny finish. And then I might do a different live stream on polishing. I'm not exactly sure. Polishing and sanding can go on the same spectrum, just because I sand into a very reflective finish, and the polishing just enhances all of that. I do a very at-home polishing system as well. I don't use any polishing compounds or things like that anymore. Again, doing things that reduce the cost of what I'm doing. I'm looking at my hands and my fingertips are kind of green. But anyways, this is what we got done today. This is what they look like now. Take a screenshot. No, but yeah. I'm going to take, obviously, process pictures of this because we are hitting this point. But as we move forward, you know, they're going to start changing. I could do similar, right, I won't start all of them to that reflective finish, but we could do some and have them down here so you can see the difference between the first or the second step of sanding. I mean, this is the first step of sanding because the first step before this was filing. So the first step of sanding is this. And then down here we would have the second step. Anyway, let me double check if my website is still up and running. I know I canceled my subscription to it. So you can still technically go to my website. It's at DianaLauraDesigns.com. So the same as this YouTube channel name. On there, I have a shop and I have a bunch of jewelry and other items on there that you can purchase. So if you would like to support me in any way, that's a way of doing it. I'll be posting the link in the comments once the video uploads to YouTube. That will take a while. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I'm glad some of you found this process to be very interesting. It is a very process-intensive process, the sanding, and it is very tiring. But I have been trying to experiment and find ways in which I can take the minimal amount of pain, or in ways that I can make my body less sore. But besides that, I'm good. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.